You're listening to Freedom Talk Radio. We're dealing with the real issues because the children shouldn't have to run away. We're exposing the escalating nightmare and ignorance of child safety and abuse. Have you any serious issues with satanic abuse, organised paedophilia, abuse in power and parliament, victim blaming, exploitation and intimidation, parental alienation, reporting the authorities for abuse, whistleblowers, police, social workers, child sexual imagery, co-parenting with an abuser, a family member as an abuser? We'd like to hear from you. You can email us securely on freedomtalkradio2013@gmail.com.
Timothy Spearman, author. Two P's in the podcast. On a Sunday, we're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about Trump and his speech and anything in between, really, because I think, me personally, Tim, I know he's controversial and he gets things wrong, but I think he's been the best president, that anyone's ever had, really, because he may be a rich man, he may be a businessman, and he may not know nothing about politics, but he knows about people and money and where the heart is, I think.
Well, I'm amazed at actually his knowledge. He does know a lot about what's going on. Apparently, he doesn't read. He's not a reader, but he knows some very high-ranking people. He has conversations with the world elite all the time, and somehow he has absorbed a lot of information and is quite knowledgeable about what's really going on. And it's cutting edge information. It's not, the opinion of maybe a professor from this university or that university. It's cutting edge information from those in the know, because when he speaks on these subjects, he does actually get it right. He knows what he's talking about. The migrant crisis in Europe is destroying the countries. In fact, Italy, the Italian prime minister, the current Italian prime minister, because they change prime ministers regularly, and they have many political parties in Italy, and it's a bit of a chaotic political mess. But the current prime minister of Italy has decided to pull Italy out of the EU. Thank God, another exit from the EU, like Brexit. She's taking the same position, and she has declared that the Italian borders are sealed, completely sealed all around. Good for her. Yes, this is how to nip this problem in the bud. The globalists are trying to destroy Europe, I'm convinced, and flooding these countries with illegal immigrants, refugees, and it's an untenable situation. It's destabilizing all of Western Europe. Each one of the countries of Western Europe is experiencing problems with this migrant crisis. We know that
it's almost a religious war, isn't it? And for us anyway in the UK, luckily, I think Greece has done the same. There's been other countries done the same, and well done to Italy. But I think our problem is France. Although we get on with France, they won't do what Trump just did in America, saying, look, close the borders, and Italy's doing the same. We need to do that in the UK, otherwise we're screwed.
Yeah, that's right. So Trump's advice is sound. Deploy the military, get the army out, seal the borders, and no, you're not allowed in. No, you will turn around and you will go back where you came from. They have to do that. Now, as far as the immigration issue is concerned, yeah, if it's legal and it's orderly and you can manage the numbers, fine. I mean, I'm not against multiculturalism. I've actually benefited from it. I have, for most of my career, been employed by Asians, mainly Chinese, but I have also been employed for several years by Koreans, and I have been employed even by a Persian, by a Iranian principal for a short time, and so I'm not anti-immigration at all. I think it's enriched my country, and it's enriched my life. I know a lot about the world because I have cultural contact with so many different cultures, so many different people from different parts of the world.
Yeah, I think, sorry to keep butting in, but I think that's what's happening over here. We love culturalism. That's not the problem. You come in our country, black, white, yellow, indifferent, gay, lesbian, whatever, and you give money to our society, share your views, and help each other out. Love your brother, love your sister. Don't commit crime. You're welcome any day. But the illegal boat people, I think, like you said, they might be sent in deliberately to destroy religion, destroy Christianity, to destroy just normal people and normal things, so that we then live in a world where you have to ask to go to the toilet, ask to go to your bank. We'll be controlled so badly, and
Yeah,
we've got digital IDs at the moment, Tim,
I know.
coming in very shortly, and they're going to make it compulsory for digital ID if you're getting a job. I mean, that's the start of a very bad cesspit that we don't want to go down.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah. No, that's part of it. They wanted to create a state of national crisis for which they could justify via their dialectic problem reaction solution. They could justify the introduction of a digital ID. Yeah, that's part of it. And of course, yes, they do want to destroy Christianity. And I recently saw, whether it's true or not, maybe you can verify, but I recently saw a video that was worryingly titled "The EU Sanctions the Ethnic Cleansing of White Britons, White British." I mean, that's the indigenous people of the country. They are the real original British, and they're advocating the genocide of whites in Britain. It's just insanity. Is that valid, or is this some kind of extremist conspiracy theory? What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know exactly the answer to that, but I have heard, I wouldn't have said it was EU agreed, but other countries, other religions want ethnic cleansing of white British for sure. And I mean, one of them obviously is the Islamic extremists, because on the last show I said to you, there's a very well-known, outspoken YouTuber who's from the Islamic State, and he basically wants to cut all white people's throat in Britain. So I don't know. That might be linked to what you just said.
Yeah,
And do you know what? Why does YouTube allow that? And somebody like there's a lady, she just come out of jail for 2 years, Lucy Conley. All she said was, about the boat people, do this to them. She pulled that tweet down. 20 minutes later, she got 2 years in jail. I mean, but they're allowed to do that on YouTube, and no one says nothing.
yeah. Well, the Luciferians that are behind this are the globalists. They are the Luciferian contingent. They want to destroy Christianity, certainly. That is their motivation. The Antichrist state of Israel plans to install the Antichrist on the throne in Jerusalem, October 2027. And the Shabbat, which is it is a Jewish body that is connected with the Grand Sanhedrin, which ordered the crucifixion of Jesus. And they want to genocide all white Christians before the Antichrist comes to power in October 2027. Now, that may sound insane. Well, yeah, I'll grant you, it is insane. But that's what these crazy Luciferians want. What is the Luciferian and what is the Satanist? Apparently, it's a class distinction. The elite, the rich, the wealthy, the influential, powerful ones that are at the top are Luciferian bloodlines. They are the highest caste of the satanic, contingent. The Satanists are a lower order of class and rank, and they perform satanic ritual abuse, and they both groups do all of those evil things, the child trafficking, the harvesting of adrenochrome from virgin children, and all the monstrous stuff that they do. But it's the Luciferians that are the more influential, powerful, and higher caste. And it's because of their power, status, and connections that they're able to protect each other through things like the Anti-Defamation League, which was set up to protect these pedophile monsters and SRA, satanic ritual abuse villains from prosecution on the grounds that it's defamation. Well, it's not defamation. You're criminals and you should all be rounded up and exposed for the crimes of child trafficking and child abuse of a most horrific kind. It's horrible, Andy. Absolutely horrible what these children have to endure. There's this one piece of shit here in Toronto named Paul Bernardo, who was ostensibly connected to Bob Rae, who was a former premier of the province of Ontario, whom I never liked, and Professor Robert O'Driscoll of University of Toronto. He was a tenured professor at the university, and he wrote a book called New World Order: Corruption in Canada. And in that book, he alleged that Bob Rae was the illegitimate father of Paul Bernardo. Paul Bernardo was a sick Scarborough rapist who abducted these poor young women, and he and his sick wife, Carla Homolka, who made a deal with the prosecution to, basically she turned on her husband and got him implicated in all of the criminal activity when she was actually more responsible than him. She was actually supplying him with the girls, including her own sister. Can you believe it? Anyway, they tortured these poor girls to death and made these snuff films for the entertainment of the sick Luciferian elite in the legislature of Ontario, the Queen's Park legislature. They're satanic or Luciferian members of the Queen's Park, according to Robert O'Driscoll. Now, this book was impounded by the Prime Minister at that time, who's also, is as corrupt or worse than Bob Rae. Bob Rae imposed a media blackout on the Bernardo trial when Paul Bernardo was on trial for being a serial killer. And you'd have to go to Buffalo, New York to buy a paper that would cover the news related to the Bernardo trial. Why would he impose a media blackout on the trial unless there was the potential for some damning information to come out about him? And I will say it again. He's a piece of, you know what? It's disgusting, Andy, the fact that these powerful and influential people can get away with these horrible atrocities.
Tim, just on that note,
Mm.
it reminds me of that friend that was on Freedom Talk Radio quite a lot. I mention it loads of times, but because we're on a new sort of platform, William Wong, he did conspire with 4 others to kidnap a child, not because they're kidnapping the child. They wanted the child away from the foster carers because of the big satanic ritual abuse happening to that child in Anglesey, North Wales. And it still sickens me. And it sickens me more because I was hoping, things would move on, but they only got jailed in 2021 for 17 years. And they was only trying to protect the bloody child. But because you did it the wrong way, you get 17 years. I mean, even if he comes out half that sentence in 9 years nearly, do you not get less for murder? It makes no sense.
Well,
He's a guy from Singapore.
Yeah, as a British citizen.
He's a guy from Singapore. So, that their kind of way of thinking is a lot different than ours. They only did it because they were desperate to help that child. But anyway, it's sick.
Yeah, it's appalling to think that a hero of good character like that is the one that's being punished for these sick abusers of poor children when he's actually a very decent and honorable man, and frankly better than most British born people in terms of wanting to defend the rights of these poor British children. I mean, good Lord, it's amazing and absolutely appalling how much power these satanic sickos have to protect themselves, to the point where they can railroad a man of decency into prison just because of their power and connection. And it's Masonic power, usually. This surrender sign actually comes from Freemasonry. It's in Freemason code, who's afraid of the widow's son. They do this when they're in trouble, and the whole Masonic society rallies around this person to protect them. And they'll do whatever they have to do, destroy lives of other people, whatever they have to do to protect their own. And yeah, I'm sorry, Freemasonry is deeply, deeply corrupt. I'm not saying that all lodges are satanic. No, I don't believe that. But the problem is the fraternity has been infiltrated by these Luciferians and Satanists down through the centuries, to the point where, I'm sorry, it's an organized international crime ring.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I do know an ex-Freemason, and he comes on the show. He's basically he's a pilot that was poisoned by organic phosphates, something in the engine oil that makes the pilots ill. He had brain damage, and he had a lot of problems for many years. He's still, probably 20 years later, still going through the legal process. And he wants to come on one day with yourself because he's not ready for it yet. But I've told him everything you say and he says, and so what you're saying is the Freemasons have helped him quite a lot in his recovery, but more the public have helped him, with evidence, blah, blah, blah. So, he said all Freemasons are not bad. It's just the modern Freemason, he says, are the bad people because they've got different ideologies.
Well, they have their own ideology, which is not good.
Not healthy.
Yeah. Well, it's been infiltrated by Luciferian and satanic elements, and they have corrupted the organization. and it is functioning as an international crime syndicate. And frankly, Freemasonry was behind the slave trade and the drug trade historically, and before them, the Knights Templar were, and we know that Freemasonry descends from the Knights Templar. So it's all a sewer, the secret society sewer. And I'm sorry to say it is Judaic in origin. The Knights Templar were founded by a bloodline of Merovingians from Germany, who actually founded the early dynastic reigns of the French kings. They were Merovingian kings. Up until Dagobert II, I believe, was the last Merovingian king. And then the Charles Martel became king, and the Carolingian dynasty in France began. But the Merovingians ended up founding the Knights Templar through a papal order. And I believe it was 1111 was the year that the Knights Templar were created as a knighthood, a military knighthood order, ostensibly to protect pilgrims on the road to Jerusalem, defending them against the attacks of Muslim raiders and so forth. I think that was a cover story. I think they were dispatched to Jerusalem to excavate Temple Mount, where they found many, many documents which contained valuable information about the secrets pertaining to the building of the temple. The flying buttress, for example, was introduced into European architecture through the discoveries they made at Temple Mount. And so what did you find? That just after this discovery, you found a flowering of architecture in Europe, where these Gothic cathedrals were being erected all over Europe. And where did the knowledge for this come from? Where did the skills come from? Where did the ability come from for the Knights Templar to erect these grand structures? From the excavation which took place at Temple Mount. And they passed all this Masonic knowledge down to the organization that they founded following their dissolution, which took place on Friday the 13th, 1307, when Philip the Fair, or Philip the Fourth of France, decided to, with the Pope's help, dissolve the order. Now, they'd become so powerful, the Knights Templar, because of money lending, that they had bankrupted the king's father, and he was highly resentful towards them for the damage they had done to the French monarchy, and he wanted them summarily done with. He wanted to execute them all, frankly. There was a rounding up. A lot of them were tortured. They were accused of Satanist practices. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. Many of them escaped from the port of La Rochelle in France in their ships. And what did their ships have on the masthead but the skull and bones, crossbone flags, which we identify as the pirate flag? In fact, it's from the third degree of Freemasonry, and presumably the Knights Templar had similar rituals to those of the Freemasons, because the burial shroud during the third degree ceremony, which the initiate would symbolically experience, would require him to look at the skull and crossbones on his own burial shroud as a symbol of his own death. It's a symbolic death, a death to the outside world and a rebirth into the life of the Masonic or the Templar community. So even in Masonry, you still have a Knight Templar degree ceremony in the 33 degrees of Freemasonry. There's like a Knight Templar degree. So it's still there. It's still influencing world affairs, you know. And
Yes.
when you think about it, the Knights Templar and the Freemasons were responsible for the international slave trade and drug trade. I mean, when you can control customs in a country, you can see that whatever contraband you're smuggling through customs gets through. And you've got Masonic agents within customs that will see that these contraband goods slip through the cracks, whether it's drugs or whether it's human trafficking, it gets through. And what do you see in Britain today? It's being flooded by migrants. Do you think the Masons have had something to do with that? You'd be stupid if you thought not. They can influence customs to turn a blind eye so that these people come flooding in. They're doing it in all of Europe. And I'm certain that the Masons have something to do with this, Andy.
Do you know the funny thing about what you've just said is it probably was like that. There was turning a blind eye. But you know, for the last year, since our new Labour government came in,
Yeah.
Border Force UK and Border Force France, or the equivalent, they're actually escorting the boats into our country. Our own border security is escorting the boats in so they don't die, so there's no big media issues about people dying, because that's what happened. You see, they all died on the boats because they couldn't drive them safely. Now, you know, so Starmer said, well, okay, I'm a bit daft. Let's go and pick them all up before they get here. Let the boats go back to France to pick more up. We'll take them in safely on their big border force vessel. Oh, God. And then the next policy is, and it's only a recent one, one in, one out, you know. So basically, or was it the way around? If a bad person who hasn't got status comes in to the UK, then a good one from France will be allowed in. Yeah, one in, one out. I don't know. They've only ever deported, since that policy 4 months ago, they've only ever deported 5 people. It's bloody mental. But yeah, the border force is actually helping them now to come in.
Well, originally France was doing the same, but I've seen recently that France is now ramming the boats of incoming migrants and ostensibly sinking the boats. I don't know
Well,
whether
that's not a bad idea.
I don't know whether that's true, but that's what
No boat, no migrant. And of course, they're slashing the money pit. You know, the people are getting up to £10,000 per person now. This month,
yeah.
when we started getting harsh on the migrants, there was 1 week when nobody came in. But as soon as they realised, oh, they're a bit slack again, on average, 800 people come in every day. We can't do that forever. And this is why there's migrant hotel fights. There's people angry on social media, so they're getting jailed instead of the migrants who are raping people, and they're actually working illegally. I mean, we just can't do this forever. It's going to end up being a big civil war.
Well,
Now,
there's clearly a bias, a double standard in the justice system against white Christians, and a bias in favor of Muslims and their rights. That's clear. It's clear in the UK. It's clear here in Canada. It's even I know from my Italian friends. It's also been clear in Italy that that's taking place. So you have Muslims objecting to Christian iconography that's erected all over the city of Rome and demanding that it be taken down. And sometimes there are Islamists that will tear down these statues and structures and what they deem to be iconography. In Islam, you're not supposed to have any depictions of Muhammad or of Allah or anything. And so in mosques, you see decorative mosaic patterns, but no imagery, no iconography depicting these figures. In fact, representational art is not even allowed in the Muslim culture. So this one Iranian film director had to disguise his representational filmmaking by making what he claimed were documentaries. Well, the documentaries were more like feature films, but he disguised it to make it look like a documentary. And because of the unique genre of filmmaking that he created in the process, he ended up winning awards and becoming a very acclaimed international director. His name was Kiarostami. I remember writing a film review about one of his films when I was a film critic in Korea.
yeah, he sounds like one of them nice pieces of ham. I'm forgetting where that bit of ham came from, but yeah. Let's go on. Let's go on to the original subject. I've got a little, not the original subject, but you was mentioning about Trump's speech. I've got a little article that may jog your memory what you was going to talk about.
Okay.
It may not be the same speech, but hopefully it is. A few days ago, Trump says in the European Union, your countries are going to hell. Trump's UN speech explained by an expert. The assembled UN dignitaries gave anyway. That's all bullshit. They clapped him a lot at the time. In between having been asked to confine his remarks to 15 minutes like other speakers, the US president gave the room a lengthy address, and he lasted 57 minutes. Good old boy. It veered from the many shortcomings of the previous US governments to why UN migration policies were ruining the world, to the climate change con job, to a warning to the assembled leaders that your countries are going to hell. At points in between, Trump thanked himself for turning the US into the hottest country anywhere in the world and getting rid of all the migrants and Americans on the American southern border, ending 7 wars. He said I should have had the Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize. Anyway, he also savaged the UN, which he said did not even try to help in any of the conflicts, the 7 that he mentioned. The UN is such tremendous potential. I've always said it had some tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, for at least for now, he says, All they seem to do is write a really strong, worded letter and then never follow anything up. I think he's referred to Russia now. They give Russia a lot of words but don't do anything. Empty words, he said, do not solve wars. Questioning whether the UN could play a productive role, Trump offered the hand of America, leadership and friendship to any nation in this assembly that is willing to join us in forging a safer, more prosperous world. In other words, UN-led I hate these words, Tim.
Multilateral?
I think he's basically, in a nutshell, he's probably saying, stop talking, more action, and if you want support, we're there with you. But if you don't want to take action, go away and read your book somewhere. Especially, he's even commented now in Russia, saying, look, he wants to end the war in Russia, but it's a European problem, a UN problem, and no one's really strong enough to go forward with shutting Russia up. But what I did like, and this guy's a Muslim, he criticizes Sadiq Khan a lot. He's our Muslim London mayor.
Yeah.
And him and the guy from Scotland, I forgot his name, that was one of the top people in Scotland, also said about white British people, that's where earlier on you mentioned, the London mayor and one of the leaders of Scotland, I don't think he's a leader anymore, said white British should be sliced and Muslims should take over.
Yeah, I know. It's to me, it's clear that the Luciferian globalist elite are behind this effort to genocide white Christians. And I've already explained why. Now, when George Herbert Walker Bush Sr., as he's more commonly referred to, was president, he introduced the no-hide laws, which are based on an ancient Abrahamic law going back to the time of Abraham. And if you break the law, you are beheaded. It's a capital offense to commit any act of transgression against your government. If it's deemed to be anti-government in any way, off with your head. And they have guillotines in the FEMA camps throughout the United States. I think there's 30,000 of them. And I know that there's a plan to exterminate all white Christians with those guillotines. And I've known about this for, going back to the year 2000. But I've read articles by Patrick O'Connor of recent date stating this in more concrete detail, and it's more updated, his information. And it's clear to me from what I've read that the Shabbat has determined that all white Christians have to be exterminated before the Antichrist takes power in October 2027. Yes, this is madness. It seems mad to even suggest it. Yes, I'm aware of that. That's because these people are criminally insane. They're inbred psychopaths, and they ritually abuse their own children so that they turn into psychopaths, and it's a self-perpetuating process of evil. And that's how it is with these Luciferian bloodlines, the Illuminati bloodlines, the 13 Illuminati bloodline families, they're Luciferian families. They practice satanic ritual abuse on their own children to make them demented so that they will become abusers themselves and perpetuate the cycle of evil.
Exactly. Just a quick tip. I've just saw AI, artificial intelligence overdue, overdue, overview. It says there are no stats on the specific number of deaths of white Christians as a group. But demographic data shows a quick decline in the overall Christian population in Western countries, such as the US and the UK. I mean, you can't make this up. We may be conspiracy theorists in some people's mind, but we're backing it up with actual facts.
Right, indeed. And it is a reality. And what is responsible for that decline in their population is the COVID vaccines. They're not vaccines, they're poison. It is a disguised poison. It's also a gene altering, mRNA vaccine, which programs the God gene to be deleted from our genome. So they are trying to eviscerate God even in our genes, these Luciferian, demented, psychopathic global elite. Oh God, it's frightening and it's horrible. And yeah, I can see it. And there is definitely an anti-white and an anti-Christian agenda in the education system that's been imposed by these, very rich and powerful billionaires, people like George Soros, just horrible. The Rockefeller Foundation funds a lot of these university as well with their Rockefeller Foundation donations. And they're one of the 13 Illuminati bloodline families. Look, read Fritz Springmeier's Bloodlines of the Illuminati. It's packed with fascinating and horrifying information about these Luciferian bloodlines.
Yeah, and if everybody's interested in the God gene, yourself have written something, and I've put it on screen. It's on research.net. Vaccines devised to delete the God gene.
Yep. Thank you, Andy. Yeah.
Yeah, try and bring up stuff when I can remember, because we've obviously always got to link everything with your many years of research, and we could go on and on and on, but hopefully in the future there'll be better news where people can find your materials and books. But for now, it's ResearchGate and other little helpful platforms that don't mind publishing the truth.
Right. Thank God for that.
Thank God the gene hasn't been deleted that as well.
And thank God for FTG Media that, you've got a platform here for those who wish to share the truth to actually have a voice.
Yeah, it's the only place I've known that have got every single thing about podcasting in one place, although I find it hard to add a video at the beginning and the end or during, but that's probably, I need a bit of training, but it's the only platform that's got everything for $5 a month.
Okay.
You can't
yeah,
get a cup of coffee for that.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it? So, Andy, apparently we get comments on the different shows on FTG Media. There's like people watching and there's like comments and so on. You can actually control the comments so that if there's an internet troll there that's trying to be disruptive or become a problem, you can deal with him?
Yeah, on YouTube, it actually works to your advantage if you get trolled. And this does come on YouTube as well, live at the same time as it does on FTJ Media. So the algorithms in YouTube, it helps push up the listenership if you get a troll, which I didn't know until recently.
Is that right?
Yeah, but obviously, if it's too bad, then you have to delete them, like deleting the God gene again.
Yeah.
Only this time it'll be deleting the troll gene. Oh, God.
Well, all we can do is spread the word and hope and pray that this migrant crisis can be dealt with. I mean, to me, the only problem is the fact that they're trying to create a divide and conquer conflict between Muslims and Christians. And with the no hide laws being implemented in the United States, anyone who, as I understand it, if you fail to deny Christ and pledge allegiance to the Antichrist, it's off with your head. Now, time will tell. That remains to be seen, but I would not at all question the claim because I know how evil these people are. And as for Sharia law being imposed, as Trump said in his speech, there's a horrible mayor in London who's imposed Sharia law on London. This is the kind of concern because if the jihadis decide that they're going to launch a jihad against Christians in their own country, there you have it. And Tommy Robinson has warned that there are these gangs, these prison gangs, that while in prison convert to Islam and they become jihadis, and they're very angry, bitter men who blame everything on whitey. They see white British as the oppressors, and they, as jihadis, would be going around, you know what, killing white Christians in Britain. There you go. And Tommy Robinson is correct. And he needs to be listened to because this is a real serious threat. And the fact that you're jailed for saying anything against Islam, well, there you go. That's the fascism right there, showing the double standard in the justice system, favoring and protecting Muslims, and showing complete disfavor and draconian measures against Christians. Now, Gandhi did exactly the same thing in India, and he was a member of a Talmudic Masonic lodge called Arjuna Phoenix, the Arjuna Phoenix Lodge. And what Gandhi was doing was he was adopting a policy of appeasement towards Muslims and even going on hunger strikes to protect Muslims whenever there were uprisings or any kind of conflict between Hindus and Muslims. And he would side with the Muslims and completely protect them. Meanwhile, he was engaged in communication with the head of the Muslim League, which was a Muslim terrorist organization that was terrorizing innocent Hindus, men, women, and children being slaughtered in the streets of Bengal in India, and he did absolutely nothing. Did he send the troops in to protect the Hindus? God, no. It's not a chance. And he made these insane speeches to the Hindus that were fleeing pogroms of genocide in Pakistan territory, and he told them to go back, to return to their homes, and to embrace their Muslim brothers. Even if they're trying to kill you, you should embrace them and love them. And if you lose your life, well, think of the Bhagavad Gita. Your soul is immortal, and though you be cut down, your soul will live on. I mean, absolutely insane speeches. Was Gandhi insane? Yeah, having read these speeches, I'd say, yeah, he was cracked, insane, nuts. Imagine telling people to go back and accept their fate and just die and allow themselves and their families to be slaughtered to death. That is an insane man. Yeah. I mean, people have no idea about the real Gandhi. And Gopal Godse wrote this true story in a book called May It Please Your Honor, where he documents his own brother, Nathuram Godse's defense in court. After he assassinated Gandhi, he gave his reasons in court. He conducted his own legal defense, and he gave all of the reasons for why he felt he had no choice in defending his country as a patriot, but to eliminate Gandhiji. Now, I'm not an advocate of violence or assassination, but I think the real hero that helped with Indian independence is Nathuram Godse, who's been demonized ever since he assassinated Gandhi. And I think the real villain who's been wrongfully acclaimed as the hero that gave India independence is Gandhi. He's a villain, a very duplicitous, evil villain that people just don't know because of the propaganda that has given him sainthood status around the planet. He's far from a saint. I mean, if you're communicating on a regular basis with a Muslim terrorist and you're communicating with the Amir of Afghanistan, urging him to invade India to found a Muslim caliphate, you're nothing but a traitor and a piece of shit. Sorry. And that's what he is. I'm sorry. People don't like the truth. That's fine. I'm here to just convey the truth. You can take it or leave it. That is the real Gandhi. I researched it thoroughly. I read the complete works of Mahatma Gandhi on CD-ROM. And by the way, Mahatma is the title he was given because he belonged to the Theosophical Society and Freemasonry. And when you belong to both of these organizations, you get the title Great Soul, which is exactly what Mahatma means, because you're an initiate of these two organizations. And his real name is Mohandas Gandhi. And that is the name I give him because he's no great soul. He's not even somewhat great. He's a fraud. He was a British agent, a traitor, and a villain. So I published a book called Gandhi Under Cross-Examination under my real name, Timothy Watson, co-authored by Colonel G.B. Singh, whom I met in Korea when he was detailed there at an American military base in Seoul. He was a dentist and he performed dentistry for the American military when he was in Seoul, Korea. And I saw that he was quite an avid researcher and that he knew the real Gandhi, and so he asked me to co-author the book with him. And yeah, I read Gandhi's complete works on CD-ROM, and so I do know the real Gandhi. He was a sergeant major in the British Army. He was a recruitment officer during the Boer War, World War I, and World War II for the British Army. And he formed as a sergeant major in the British Army, he formed an ambulance team of stretcher bearers in order to win the favor of the British so that he would be able to found a permanent Indian militia in South Africa. That's why he did it. That's what his aim was in founding this team of stretcher bearers during the so-called Kaffir uprising, a native rebellion that took place in South Africa. Andy? Andy, hello?
Yeah, I'm just dreaming away.
Okay. So, yeah.
Because your stories not memorize it, that word that makes me calm and tranquil, and I try and follow with that. Tommy Robson, is kind of what I was about 10 years ago with Maggie Tuttle.
Yeah.
With Tommy, you see, I think his biggest mistake,
Yes.
when he joined the English Defence League,
Yes.
or he actually didn't join it, he founded it.
Yes.
I think his biggest mistake was after he realised what it created was wrong, he never said nothing about it. So it was only when he started to be a good guy, or at least a better version of what he tried, and then you got the right people behind him. If he carried on saying, that was a mistake as the English Defence League, because it wasn't a good setup, he would have got more people on his side a lot earlier than now. It's only now we're all desperate, we're all listening to Tommy. But when I was younger, and he was probably obviously younger as well, he was a thug, but he wasn't actually that thug, because if you listen to his YouTube videos in full, from the early days and the Oxford Uni, he wasn't actually that bad person. He just didn't let the people know he wasn't bad. And that's probably his only mistake.
I see. So in the beginning, he was just a little.
I think he just wanted to bash certain nationalities on the head, but I'm only saying that. That's my interpretation of it.
I see. Well, I've heard him speak on many subjects recently, and I find him very convincing and his warnings very valid. And I think he's...
Yeah, I mean, this is not because he's decided to read books or he's decided I want to hate somebody. He's just doing this from lived experiences in the town he was brought up in Luton, with Muslims, that most of them are his brothers and sisters. And then he's been in jail with the Islamists because of his speeches. So he's 100% real. It's just that I think he could have done better when the English Defence League had folded to explain, what went wrong there. He would have got support a lot earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, I think he's been in jail 25 times just for speaking the way he is at the moment. It's unfair.
Right. Okay, well, you can see some of the books published under my pen name there that Andy has kindly pulled up. Timothy Spearman. These books are among the many that I have published over the years. And there's going to be an effort made to republish a good many of these so that they get the proper reception they deserve. I'm a quality writer of fiction and nonfiction, and I think there's very few researchers that research as broadly into as many topic areas as I do and emerge with cutting edge information in the process, not least my Shakespeare scholarship work to establish that the man from Stratford, Will Shakespeare, was a front man who assumed credit for the plays simply because the true authors needed to politically protect themselves. And so I have determined that there was a collaboration between Francis Bacon and his half brother, the 17th Earl of Oxford, to write the Shakespeare works, and that they chose their childhood friend, Will Shakespeare, to be the front man to receive credit while they remained behind the stage curtain.
It all has one thing in common, though, don't it? This new book now, Science of COVID-19, that's obviously a modern day version that in a few years' time, maybe 50 years' time, people will look back on that like they are now with Shakespeare and Titanic. I mean, Kevin Annett put it very simply in one of his books. I think it's the right title, Hidden from History. And this is the problem. Everything is always hidden from history. It's hidden from the present time as well. It's annoying.
Yeah,
But
like
it's researchers that get out the truth. But, will I find the truth about events? I probably won't. It'll be the next generation. But this has been going on for forever. We're always been told later what the truth is.
right, exactly, because the truth purveyors like me are suppressed in their lifetime, so their works are only discovered after their death. Posthumously, their works become recognized. Look at the great English poet William Blake. It was 100 years after his death that he was properly discovered and that his work was properly publicized and shared. I think the three greatest literary figures of England would be the pseudonymous author William Shakespeare, because the two authors that authored the works of Shakespeare used a pen name, and originally it was William Shake-Spear because they were naming themselves after the nickname of the goddess of drama in ancient Greece, Pallas Athena, who was the spear shaker. And the reason she was called the spear shaker is because she shook her spear at the twin serpents of ignorance and vice, so that by educating people through drama, she would chase away the serpent of ignorance and the serpent of vice. So the greatest dramatists in England named themselves after Pallas Athena, the drama goddess, the goddess of drama.
Yeah, and a lot of these organisations, and colleges. We're the William Shakespeare Society, and they're all benefiting from a lie.
Yeah, I know, it's appalling. I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know. Privilege within the satanic circles is always granted to the most corrupt, the most pernicious, the most villainous, and the biggest liars. And so we've got a topsy turvy world where the corrupt pieces of shit are at the top and the cream is down at the bottom. That's our filthy, disgusting society. Shit floats. Sorry, but it does. Shit floats just like cream. And unfortunately, it's the shit that's at the top right now.
and the same with the Titanic. It's and the Madeleine McCann story and Diana and. Anyway, Tim, it's been really good again to catch up, and we're here every Sunday when we can be.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I really enjoyed today's show.
Yeah, me too. It was a really good one. I think it's the best one we've had since we got back on our mounts and started riding again.
Yep, that reminds me of that theme tune.
Yeah.
The horse one.
Yeah. We had the old show of the Knights of Liberty, and
That's it. Yeah.
yeah, and apparently the Knights of Liberty have some association with the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, and no, that's not why we named ourselves the Knights of Liberty. It was just that we were trying to free people with the truth, and that's how the name came about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been very good. Please comment below, on YouTube or FTJ Media. Send us an email. Be a part of the show if you've got similar discussions. From Andy and Tim, it's God bless.